Director of Marketing and Outreach for NESCA. And thank you so much for joining us for tonight's webinar, Is the College Track the Only Path? Tonight's webinar will be presented by Tabitha Monahan, and Tabitha is a transition specialist and counselor here at NESCA. I will let her do her own introductions. I just want to let you know that we will have a live Q&A at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to put any questions you have in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, or you can put them in the chat section as well. But just know that we will get to them at the end. And with that, I will turn things over to Tabitha.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this rainy, stormy evening. Apparently the weather missed that all the showers were supposed to happen last month. I'm Tabitha Monahan. I am a transition specialist, as Jane said, at NESCA. My background is in adult services and as a vocational rehabilitation special counselor, and I am a transition specialist endorsed by the state of Massachusetts, as well as have the national certification for transition specialist. For those of you who are less familiar with NESCA, we are a multidisciplinary practice known for our neuropsychological evaluations. And in addition to our robust transition assessment and counseling services, we also have occupational therapists, executive function coaching, and a variety of other disciplines as well, with offices and we're based in Newton, but we also have offices in Hingham, Plainville, and Londonderry, New Hampshire. And just to go over kind of the plan for this evening is it's always good to have a refresher on what transition planning is and how it really connects with our students, our children, and their objectives and their goals for the future. I'll go through some of the most common and popular post-secondary options, as well as some that we don't necessarily automatically think about. The importance and how to connect self-determination to transition planning. And then, as Jane said, we'll also open the floor for questions at the end. So transition planning is simply and not so simply planning for life after high school, after we exit public education. And it includes so many different things. So our coursework that we're taking to get to our high school diploma or our certificate of completion. And this includes, all of our basic academics, English, science, history, but also the non-academics and the electives that are important, the type of instruction that works best for our students, all of the related services, whether it's occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language, counseling, all of those aspects. Community experiences. When we think of life after high school, we still need to be thinking about the least restrictive environment. And the least restrictive environment after public education is in our local community. And so helping support our loved ones in getting the support and experiences in their local community and various communities. Career and college planning. This is a topic that is a passion of mine. And there are so many different ways, and we have a perception of what that should look like. And one of the things that, we need to really start thinking about, preferably before high school, is what that track might mean for the individual and how we can support them in getting there. And then daily living skills. It says if needed, because that's what the federal law says. But we are also in a position, most of us, the vast majority of us, need to make sure we have a plan and make sure we're able to do all of the daily living skills. And we're able to not only have that knowledge, but we're able to execute that knowledge. And so transition planning needs to start with goal setting, and that goal needs to start with the student's vision. And I'm assuming most of you have heard that we're going to have a new IEP form that is already starting to roll out and will be rolling out next year. And this new form will include more ways for the student's vision to be involved. And so when we're thinking about the rest of planning, it needs to be based on that person's vision. Then we need to create the plan to help them achieve those goals, try the plan. And one of the most important things is evaluating the progress of that plan and taking that information and reframing the plan to ensure that we're getting closer to that vision. And then we keep doing it. We're good. So in Massachusetts, transition planning should start no later than the year in which a child turns 14. So that's usually, depending on the student, we're thinking about the IEP that goes into effect when they're in 8th grade. For a lot of our students, though, it's appropriate to actually try to start that earlier, because if you're waiting until 8th grade, 9th grade to think about the courses that they're going to be taking or want to take in high school, it's going to cause more adjustments. And we want to make sure that the student gets the support they need to take the classes that will help them meet their academic and career goals. So when we think about life after high school, we often think about college. And we have our 2-year colleges that are, sometimes called junior colleges and our community colleges, but there's also technical schools that offer 2-year degrees and certificate programs. And then the colleges that we think of that are for 4 years or the bachelor degree or higher programs. It is important to note, and I think this is an important thing for our students to realize, is most people do not actually graduate their 4-year colleges in 4 years. And so again, when we're thinking about that planning, thinking about if that pace makes sense for our student and how we're supporting our student in understanding what their college experience may look like. And in Massachusetts, we have many opportunities for supported college experiences. And these are great for students who want to be on a college campus. They want to be with their same age peers, but matriculating into a college program is not the best fit for them. And so there are colleges for individuals with learning differences. There's a lot of programs popping up to support autistic students in a college environment. But there's also college programming with people with intellectual support needs in mind. Depending on the program, these vary a lot, and whether the costs are included in tuition, whether there's additional fees, what level of that support would look like, whether it includes learning and work-based opportunities. And we have the Massachusetts Inclusive Concurrent Enrollment Initiative, which provides support for school districts to help students have that college opportunity. And one of the things that we're also seeing a lot is students trying to think and expand beyond the college experience. And this is an area where there's less information and access for the students to get, whether they have access to their school guidance counseling curriculum or not. And a lot of these opportunities are an excellent way for the student to continue their learning path and to have access to higher uh, pay and opportunities for jobs. Um, and so a lot of these can be things like training programs. So whether it's um, an apprenticeship, um, or a specific like technical trade school. And one of my favorite resources for students is Job Corps. Um, and so apprenticeships are a great way for that hands-on learning piece. A lot of unions offer apprenticeships. So if you go to your local electricians union or plumbing unions, those are wonderful opportunities. There's a lot of trade specific programs, especially if you want to work with vehicles and cars. You can go to a general training program, but there's also a lot of the car companies have company specific programs. And there are, there are things like barber schools and beauty schools, um, learning medical coding and getting support in being a, a medical assistant, um, or even, things like radiology and whatnot. And as I said, Job Corps is one of my favorite resources for students. It is a program that students can use and enroll in up to age 24. They will use the accommodations that are on the IEP to help with the classroom learning section. Um, and there's locations around the country. Massachusetts, I believe, has 3 or 4 different locations. Uh, and those are wonderful opportunities. And it includes things such as hospitality services, carpentry, a lot of those same union apprenticeships, but they also have a lot of support. There is opportunities, and most of them where you live on the Job Corps campus. There's social opportunities. There's career counseling where they help you find a job after you finish. And there's advanced training options. So let's say you went into car mechanics, you can then later go into large engine mechanics at another location. So thinking more about those private career college and technical schools, um, these are typically certificate programs and they can vary in length. Um, and depending on the program, it can change how the cost of it is, whether it includes equipment, what their guarantee is for employment and training. It's also important to really look into their training model and what their post completion employment rate is, but can be a wonderful option for our students who want to go this route, but really do best with hands-on learning. And then, of course, there's adult services. And adult services is a complex world and not something that we would be able to cover tonight. So these are the most common state agencies that provide services after exiting public education to individuals with disabilities. Most of the folks that I'm familiar with working are more familiar with DDS, and they have 2 divisions now. They have the supports and services for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but they also have services for individuals with autism. Mass Rehab Commission is most well known for their vocational services, which they provide to any individual with disabilities. So, a lot of our students who do not have a mental health or developmental disability fall into this category. So, this can include things such as learning disabilities or ADHD and whatnot. But they also have supported living and community based services for individuals whose primary disability is physical. And they also have services for individuals with both acquired and traumatic brain injuries. Um, the Department of Mental Health is probably the second most common agency families ask me about outside of DDS. And they provide services for people with severe and persistent mental illness. And thankfully, a lot of our students really don't meet eligibility under that requirement. It's not um, that their depression or anxiety or other disorder isn't impacting them. It's just that it's not impacting them to the level that you would be eligible for those services. And so that was the incredibly quick version of most of the common options for individuals. And as you can see, there are many beyond just going to college. So when we're taking a look and thinking about those pieces, we should be asking ourselves and the IEP team, you know, again, starting with the student, it's their life. What are their plans and hopes for their future? Where are they in their self exploration? Do they have a strong awareness of their strengths? Do they know the things that they find challenging? And what resources, both the formal resources and informal resources, natural resources, will be available to them after they exit public education? Um, we need to be thinking about the larger community. What organizations do they want to be part of? What, um, where do they expect to find friendships and enjoy life? It's beyond keeping your house clean and employment. Where do they see their work life balance being? And what does that look like for them? So, things that we want to make sure the students considering and we're helping them consider is when they're thinking about their career specifically, you know, we're thinking about their interest, their transferable skills, what strengths and skills do they have, and how do they relate to different career pieces? Um, what preferences they like. One of the big, excuse me, one of the common examples I use with the individuals I work with is, you can work in IT and many different environments. You could work at a place with a open floor plan and everybody's in cubicles and it's loud and bright. Or you can work for a smaller company where maybe you get your own office and you're working mostly through email and Zoom and things like that and less contact with other people. And then another piece is what's that training going to look like? When they're saying, oh, I want to be a doctor. Well, or they want to be a teacher? Are they aware of how much training, even beyond their bachelor's degree, they're going to need? And so, one of the things that we really want to try to do is how are we helping our children make this big decision? they're 18, 22 years old, even younger. How are we helping them figure out all this process? And one of the ways we can make sure to do that is by helping them build their self-determination skills and their agency and their belief that the actions they take will have impact on their life. So, what is their decision making? What is their problem solving and goal setting strategies like? Do they believe in themselves? And do they have a understanding of who they are as a complete person? And ways that we can help them go through those pieces are, helping them discover their likes and preferences. Oh, you really like working with animals. You enjoy building things either, through video games or Legos, things like that. Oh, you love history. You love sharing information with people. You want a job where you're moving around a lot. The idea of sitting still for 8 hours, how do you feel about that? Oh, you want to work in the science field. You love the idea of mixing chemicals together and coming up with new things and building things. Um, Helping them explore what that means and, think about, okay, well, I really like science. How do I do in my science classes? Um, oh, I'm good with the general concepts, but the math piece is more challenging. Okay, well, what can I do about that? Do I want to focus on math more so I build those skills? Or do I want to use my strengths and preferences in a different way that my weakness and challenge in math is less of an aspect. Um, they have their goal, right? They have their vision, the big vision of what their life is going to be. And when they get to be our age, are they able to set goals, and not just that general goal, but a goal, something they can work on right now and create a plan to make progress and to meet that goal. And again, most importantly, do they believe in themselves? Do they believe that they have the support and resources to uh, really, move forward in this path while they're considering all of these options available to them? And now that we're about halfway through our time, I did want to open it up for questions and open discussion. Jane, did anybody post any questions in the chat while I was speaking?
Hi there. I don't see anything open currently.
We'll give folks some time to digest that. It was a lot of information very quickly, uh, but definitely feel free to put your question in the chat. Jane, I'm not sure, do people have the ability to unmute themselves or raise their hand to ask the question verbally?
They can raise a hand.
Okay.
Not seeing anything coming in if you want to jump back in.
All right. So another piece that I think is important for our students in making sure they have all the information that they are looking to is having them have the chance to explore it. And a lot of our students, they need time to process that information. So waiting until, necessarily the spring, summer of their junior year to start looking at colleges and college programs. We want to have that start being a goal or objective in their IEP closer to their freshman and sophomore year, to really allow them the opportunity to take a look at the information. And again, a lot of our students benefit from that hands-on community-based, work-based, repeated opportunities. So having them do interviews and tours of all of these different programs are important. Um, Learning about the expectations of those different programs. So, like Job Corps as a federal program, while it's included as a benefit of our tax dollars, there are a lot of rules because it's federally funded that um, participants have to agree to. And same kind of thing for colleges. A lot of students are not fully aware that all of the modifications and accommodations on their IEPs will not travel to a college setting. And so making sure they're working towards building the independence to know when to ask for help, to know what resources are available. Um, One of the things that I really like my students to do when they're doing college tours and looking at different programs is in the moment, kind of seeing what they like and dislike about different programming. Is there tutoring involved? Is there a writing center? Do they have clubs that are interesting to me? Um, what is a typical class load like? Have they had the opportunity to look at through a college syllabus and see the differences and expectations between their college classes and their high school classes? Um, and also thinking about, how we can use work-based learning to help with this exploration. Uh, I really want my students to have what we consider a entry level job, and because you learn so many of the soft skills and transferable skills that will benefit you regardless of your career path moving forward. And are there any other questions or comments um, regarding some of the information we've shared tonight?
Yeah, so I have a couple here. One is my son wants to work in a store and is not I guess not being helpful in trying to decide where exactly he wants to work. He wants to work in the social sort of, being a greeter type of thing, but isn't is still very much working on social skills. Is there any advice you have for that?
Um, that is such a great question, and I think one that a lot of our teens and young adults are experiencing, especially in a post-pandemic world, is we were all shut in and away from folks for so long, and our students were, well, at this point in late elementary school and middle school when the shutdown occurred. And the big piece of this is exposure, right? This is where having the work-based learning opportunity as part of this students' high school programming is so important. And probably with a job coach, right? We don't want to put them in the deep end of the pool and say, okay, just figure it out. You got this. We need to be there to help them, in the moment when they're having those naturally occurring opportunities. And so, uh, a lot of our students, especially if they're still considering a college path and they're not, they're kind of on the fence of that yet, they don't have much academic time during the day. This is where programs like the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission pre-employment transition services, pre-ETS, can be a great benefit for our students. And each school has a pre-ETS contact and a primary pre-ETS provider agency where they can really help with those things, including work-based learning opportunities. So the short answer to that long answer is exposure with support to help them problem solve and figure it out.
Great. My child hyper focuses on activities and hobbies and then drops them, never to return. How do I know if this is a true passion or interest or something that they will drop and not want to pursue as a career?
Um, so I don't think we will know necessarily. I mean, how many of us are still in the careers when well, I'm a long way from retirement still. And I imagine a lot of us are. Um, but how many of us are still in the same career uh, that we were in when we graduated high school or college? Uh, it, Society has changed in such a way where people do have several career changes over the course of their working life. And so I'm less concerned with a person who has hobbies that they try out and they get super passionate about, and then they're done. Um, and in the short lives of our teenagers, doing it for 4 to 6 months and then not touching it again seems like they're done with it. But they may pick it up again, in 5, 10 years. Um, and so a lot of this, I think, is more about that self-awareness piece for them. Like, and helping them figure out, okay, so what about, and I'm going to make up some hobbies and interests here. What about crocheting? Did you really enjoy? Was And help them really like break that down. You liked making and creating something. You liked being busy with your hands. You liked that you could do that and watch YouTube videos. Um, you were participating in a sport, and you got all of the equipment, you took lessons, you joined a team, and after one season that was enough. Okay, well, why was it enough? Why did you not want to sign back up for basketball or golf? Oh, well, it was really hot. Golf is an outside sport and I don't like the sun and it's so much walking. Basketball, well, I had a hard time figuring out what my teammates wanted me to do, and so they'd never pass me the ball. And then we can use those pieces to be like, okay, those are preferences we want to consider. What's the what jobs relate to that interest? Considering the preferences, and well, what are you into right now? And one of my favorite kind of questionnaires that I use with my individuals who are um, kind of exploring those different career paths is one where it asks you what you liked in the past, what you like right now, and what you think you might like in the future. Because all of that can be used to kind of think about that future vision and make that plan on how to explore that and decide if that's a path you want to go down.
Great. Um, my child is undecided what path they will take after graduation. What advice do you have for how they should spend the summer?
Ooh, well, certainly not sitting on their couch on an electronic device. Um, let's get them a job. Let's use the information and knowledge we have. Uh, you know, do they want to, you know, and a lot of times, if they're, I don't like the word motivation, but the desire to remain in the nice, cool, air conditioned house is even stronger than the desire to have their own personal money. Is, okay, what of these options seems least terrible, right? Do you want to work at a restaurant? Do you want to do a retail type job? Would you like to be like a counselor in training at a camp? And if they're really not sure, we're still in May. This is a great time to maybe bring the team together and be like, okay, how can we get them a job for a summer? Getting them connected to, again, pre-ets, especially if you or they feel they're going to need a little bit more support than just showing up to the job. And I also think it's important for us as the adults to remember that even if it doesn't go well, it was a learning experience. They gain skills, and now we have more information on how to help them proceed and have a happier success next time.
What is the process to get a job coach, and how do you know if they are a good fit?
Ooh, now that's the tough question. Um, so the short answer, well, there is no short answer. So there's several paths. The first is, if this is part of their transition services, is the IEP team coming to a decision and saying, yes, this student needs a job coach to make effective progress. Um, Another avenue, again, is that pre-ed services. And there's some private organizations now that you can privately pay for job coaching. Uh, and for varying expense, I believe some even have a few like financial scholarship type programs as well. And when we're thinking about a good fit, right? It's kind of the same way any service provider or teacher is a good fit. Uh, do they hear the student? Uh, are they willing to match the student's preferred learning style? And are they willing to allow the student to be as independent as possible? We don't want the job coach to be a permanent fixture. We want the job coach to be able to fade back support as the student builds skills and confidence.
What are your recommendations for someone who decides that they want to go the work route and then changes their mind and wants to go to a 2 or 4 year college? What's the
Abs-
advice for sort of making that transition?
So uh, there's always time to go back to college, right? So I think it's important that we're giving students the room to change their minds, even after they've started. And that's both when they've gone the work route and decide on college and vice versa. So the first piece, I think, is having the young adult think about why they want to go to college. What is it about the college experience they're looking for? Um, and so, and it's going to be very similar to what a student does in high school, right? Um, is having them do the research, have them do the tours, have them look what programming are they looking for. Um, Again, reaching out to mass rehab adult services can help with that exploration as well. And they can kind of support the young adult as they navigate it. Um, there's also programs, college navigator programs, um, checking out the local community college, having them try one class, see how they feel, see how they like it. It can be very intimidating, especially if you've been out of school for a couple of years, to go back and be in a classroom. And so helping them ease into it with that one class. Um, and again, a lot of times we learn and work best through trial and error. So reminding them that it's okay to think about it and that they don't have to impulsively make the decision.
Right, sounds like good advice. Any other questions? Just give this a minute. All right, it looks like we are question free.
All right.
So thank you, Tabitha, for joining, and thank you everyone else for joining as well. The video will hopefully be on the NESCA website in the next day or so under resources and video resources, and we will also be sending out a PDF of the slides to you for those who registered. So thank you, and Tabitha, you can take it from here.
Thank you. And one of the things we do love to do at NESCA is a lot of times, we need time to absorb this information and we come up with a lot of questions after. NESCA does provide consultations to both schools and families. And so if you have any questions and you want more individualized advice for your students, we do have resources available at NESCA. But also definitely make sure you're checking out your local school district's guidance counseling department. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Yeah, thank you.